Now, if you're the kind of runner who gets tired towards the end of a race, towards the end of a long run, then it's often about your stamina, your endurance, and also power. And the biggest sessions for me, in order for you to gain power in the big power muscles, the glutes, the hamstrings, and to just get yourself at a point where you can be comfortable being uncomfortable, that you'll find yourself in a race and you lose time or you lose distance on the people around you when you're going on an uphill. This is going to correct that for you, and this is going to put you in a powerful position so that once it comes to a hill, you're actually looking forward to it, because you turn in what was a weakness and what is a weakness for most people into a strength. So this is a go-to session of mine. I always do hill reps, but this is a go-to session, and all you need is a treadmill. The session is literally 10 times 3 minutes with 60 seconds rest in between. Now you need a treadmill because the great thing about a treadmill, we all know the boring things about a treadmill. It's indoors, it might not be as beautiful, but it's consistent. It's consistent in terms of the temperature is going to be there or thereabouts. The conditions are more trackable, so it's more consistent. So there's less variables, so that you know that 6% is 6% gradient, 10% is 10% gradient, and you can therefore look at the data, look at the heart rate coming down in between reps. You can look at the heart rate going up during the rep, and you can keep more or less everything the same. And ideally what you need here is a heart rate monitor and a watch that's going to give you that data as accurately as possible. And I'd always suggest getting a heart rate that is very, very accurate. So what we're going to do is you're going to warm up on the treadmill first. And so the warm up for a hill rep session is, I always start with 400 or 500 meters walking. And all I'm basically doing is, we're about to do a session, we're about to do a hard session, 10 times 3 minutes. We're going to be running hard for 30 minutes, and we're going to be resting for 10 minutes within that session. But you want to get ready for it, and it's hill reps. So you want to prepare the body in the warm up to be running uphill, and so that those first couple of reps are not shock to the body. Now, whether you're doing 20 times 400 meters on the track, or whether you're doing 10 times 5 minutes, you want the whole session to be a tiny stress on the body, so that you can super compensate and you can get the improvement from that session and become a better runner. You don't want to, from 10 times 5 minutes, the first two to be a shock, you don't really hit them, so you only get 8 times 5 minutes. You don't want it to be like that. You want to get the whole session in, yeah? And that's why the preparation, the warm-up, especially for a hill session, is really important. So I'd start with a walk, like 400 or 500 meters walk. That'll probably take you at 5K, probably take you 4 or 5 minutes. Then when you're walking, you're engaging the glutes. So you kind of like telling the glute that, listen, it's a hill day, I'm gonna need you. I mean, you need them for all runs, but especially with the hill run, you want those big power muscles, the glutes and the hamstrings, to be doing the majority of the work. So you're telling them as you're walking, listen, get engaged, get ready, because you're going to be working. And then after that 400 or 500 meter walk, I jog as slow as I possibly can. And I started to put the treadmill 1%, 2%, 3%, just as I'm jogging. And that might be like 8, 9, 10 kilometers an hour, just really, really, really slow. And it's just getting my body ready. It's preparing the calves, it's preparing the hamstrings, it's preparing the quads for lifting. And then after maybe 8 minutes, I'll hop off the treadmill, I'll do some dynamic stretching. And that usually consists of arm swings, just to open the chest, and the arms are going to be doing some work as well. Don't neglect to, and don't underestimate the power of kind of arm swings and opening the rib cage and opening the lungs. And then some leg swings, and just look around you. But again, engage the glute as the leg's going back, but you're also kind of opening the hip flexors, because the hip flexors is going to do a job here at picking the leg up and then pushing down. So once you've done that, and I also do some calf raises as well, just to let the calves know that, just 10 calf raises are needed. You don't want to over tire any muscle group, but just to let the calves, I need you today. You're going to be the stability muscles, and you're going to be helping the glutes and the hamstrings push me up these hills, yeah? And then hop back on the treadmill and continue where you left off. So you maybe 3 or 4% at whatever pace. And then what we're going to do is we're going to gradually get the gradient to 10%, and the pace to the pace that we feel as individuals that we can hold for 10 times 3 minutes with 60 seconds break in between. Now that might be for you right now too much. So you might need to start with 4 or 5. And that's an easy gradient that you'll find pretty much anywhere in your neighborhood unless you literally live in a flatland. So you'll usually be able to cope with that. But it might be that you need to start with 10 times 1 minute at 5% and then gradually build up. But the body will adapt really, really quickly. And before long, you'll be able to do 10 times 1.5 minutes, 10 times 2 minutes, 10 times 3 minutes. And then from there, you can progress from there. The progressions are very simple. But build up to that 10%. And the session is literally going to be 10 times 3 minutes at 10% with 60 seconds in between. 60 seconds where you're getting the heart rate down from what it probably is in the session. It could be in zone 3, zone 4, for me between 150 and 165 beats. You getting involved? Or above that 165 to 175 beats into zone 4. That might be the session. It depends on what you're working on, but this is a great session and will help you out with the power. I'm thinking all the time in this session that I'm building the heart and the lungs, I'm building that lactate threshold, but I'm also building the power muscles that are helping me with all my running, not just hill running. I'm building a stronger runner. And so you get to the end of the warm-up and you're probably looking at 12 to 15 minute warm-up. He's gone up. He's warmed up his glutes and he's just power jumped across to the top of the kitchen. So you're building up to 10%. And then what I want to do, if I'm doing a 3 minute rep for the first rep, I want to be able to run at least half of that, at least 1 minute and 30, if not 2 minutes, at the pace or just under the pace that I'm going to run the first rep in. Bear in mind, you're going to be doing the warm up for 12 to 15 minutes because you want to really warm everything up, especially for a hill session. And then you're going to hop off the treadmill, you're going to drink some water, you're going to get prepared, and you're going to get in your rhythm ready for 10 times 3 minutes with 60 seconds. So don't have that as a shock. So get yourself prepared for that first and second rep. And then it's all about staying comfortable. So remember during the rep, focus on your breathing, but focus on keeping everything linear. Now, if your arms are linear and your elbows are not too far away from your body, and your toe, ankle, knee, and hip are all aligned, then and you're pushing off from the midfoot and you engage in the glute, that's the perfect place you want to be in order to cope with those 10 times 3 minutes. So you're working through those first reps and you're pacing it thinking, I'm not trying to do 3, I'm trying to do 10. And maybe psychologically, like I do, you split them up in 3 sets of 3 with 1 bonus at the end, and that there's no extra rest in between that third and fourth and the other reps, but it helps you psychologically break down the session. And then in between the rep, you want to be monitoring this over the weeks and months, because if you continue to go back to this session or progressions of this session, what you're going to find is the body becomes really good at recovering in between reps. So if you do initially, if you get your heart rate up to 170 during the rep, for instance, and then it's coming down to 130, or initially it might only come down to 150, so you don't feel properly recovered when you hop back on the treadmill ready for the next rep. But over the weeks, you're going to see your heart rate come down many more beats, and that's a sign also of fitness, and it's something that you should monitor, because in a race, if you kind of go into the red, which we all do from time to time, you might get carried away with a group, you might get carried away with your pacing, or it's just not your day, and you need to kind of recover on the go. Slow it down a little bit, let the heart rate reduce. Your heart rate is going to reduce much more if it's used to doing that kind of thing. And that's why I hop off the treadmill, deep breaths, get some great air in there, and then go again. And then it's about kind of like the discipline of, we're going to do 10 today. And you want to finish that session, that 10th rep, thinking that if I was pushed, I could do another 2 reps. And that's where you really want to be. You really want to be in an interval session. Always that if you were pushed, you could do another 1 or 2. And that means that you've pushed it, but you've not pushed it too far so that the recovery is too long. And then for the warm-up, very simple. It's basically the warm-up, for the cool-down, it's basically the warm-up in reverse. So I'm going to bring the gradient down gradually. I like to do something at about 6%, so I'll jog for about 1.5 kilometers at 6%, and that will be nice and easy, around about 10 kilometers per hour. And bear in mind, the speeds are just very individual in terms of speed. Speed doesn't matter. The fact is that you're getting the effort in there, and you're training at the effort that you really want to be working at, yeah? But once you can crack that, even if initially you're in zone 1 and it's super easy for you, but you're working the right muscles, you're building the muscles and you're building the relationship between you pushing off and engaging the glutes. And it's much easier to do that in a hill session than it is on the flat, because you need those glutes in order to move up the hill. My cat has just seen a bird, and he's gonna go crazy until he gets it. So yeah, it's the perfect session, and then the progression's on from there. You can either go steeper. So with that, you need to think about, okay, what are you racing? What is important for you? Because 10% is a good gradient. 10%, you're not gonna find many road races with 10% gradient, and you might get a little steep section, but the likelihood is that most gradients in races are kind of 5, 6, 7%, unless you're off-road trails, and then it's a different thing altogether. So prepare yourself for whatever's coming up. So and this is a nice little hack, if you've got a race coming up, like I have at 50K with 6.5% average, I want to be training at 8, 9, 10%, so that those steeper sections, because that's the average, which means that some of it is 2%, some of it 3%, some of it's 8, 9, 10%, some of it in this race is going to be 25%. So you got to get to a point where you want 6.5% to feel easy. You don't want to be training at 6.5%. You want to do some specified work at 6.5%, but you don't want to be too much training so that on race day that still feels hard. Doing a little bit more will make that feel easier. And also the progressions on top of that might be that you do more reps. So you can do 12 times 3 minutes, 15 times 3 minutes, 20 times 3 minutes, or you might want to increase the rep. And my go-to session when I know I'm completely fit, and I can nail this session, it's just 60 seconds in between, is 5 times 10 minutes. I'll do 10 times 5 minutes and 5 times 10 minutes. And if I can hit the paces that I need to hit within either race pace, or if it's a longer race pace, plus 10 or 20%, then I know I'm there or thereabouts. I know I'm fit enough. There you go, good luck with that. It's a great session, and I always love doing it because I feel so good afterwards, after hitting those paces.